Welcome to Tuber Chat. Whether you're working on your first 1,000, 2,000, or even 10,000 subscribers and beyond, you've come to the right place. We're going to introduce you to one of the most influential content creators that can help you to get your channel moving beyond your first 10,000 subscribers. We're talking to Rob from Curmudge Inn, Alaska. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today.
The series is how to get 10,000 subscribers on your YouTube channel. But I looked today, and as of what are we on? March 11th is the day we're recording this. You have 48,000 on the way towards 49,000. So my first question is, where are you going to hang the play button when you get it? Because it's not going to be long.
I'm not sure. I haven't really thought about that.
Yeah, we'll have to have a look through your videos and look through the whole homestead to see where's going to be the most appropriate place when you're filming your YouTube videos.
Right. Well, and that's the crazy thing, because we film all over the property. It's not just one location. It could be here in this house. It could be in the shop. It could be in the machine shop. It could be in the cabin. It could be in my new studio that I've been building.
Oh, this is, yeah, you were saying, I mentioned to Rob before we started recording, I watched your intro video, the one you did about 5 months ago, right before we did our conversation today, just so I could, refresh and see how you introduce your channel. And you were saying in there, you're always building something, and there's structure after structure as far as I've seen.
Yes, we have about 8 structures right now. And we're going to be adding more.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's always construction going on.
You're a handier guy than me, I'll tell you that right now. But that's great. And before I get too far into it, I just want to ask you if you don't mind introducing your channel for anybody that hasn't already connected to you, so that I don't leave anything out.
Okay. Well, I'm Rob. I'm one half of the Curmudge Inn. Sarah's around the house wandering around doing her things. We live approximately 13 miles north of the frontier town of Talkeetna. We live very remote. We can only access our property via the Alaskan Railroad flag stop service. And in wintertime, it's a little more difficult. We can only get in and out on weekends, the first Thursday of every month, or by foot, boat, or helicopter. And I don't have a helicopter or a boat, and I have done the trip on foot a few times.
Oh gosh, yeah, that has to be challenging. You better know when to get there, and better be able to get there at the same time.
Yes.
One of the things I found most fascinating is I learned about flag stops from your channel. Somebody like myself, I'm a city boy, so I'm surrounded by concrete, steel, and glass and computer screens all the time. So I haven't done a lot of remote things. And when I see, like, well, where are you supposed to go? There's no dock, there's no deck, there's no station. How do you know where the train goes? And it seems to me that you just literally have to know, and that's how it is.
Yep. You can actually, on the Hurricane Turn train stretch, which is approximately about 55, 60 miles, you can actually get off at any location. It doesn't have to have a specific spot. Like if we decided to, we could actually move our spot 100 yards down the trail.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But we already have an established trail, so we won't do that. But we have campers that come up here and they get on the train and they'll go up to the Twin Bridges, which is about another 30 miles north of us. And they'll get off and they'll either camp there overnight or they'll take a raft back to town.
Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah.
And we get that a lot. And we get hunters that come out here and things like that.
My guess is that you get a lot of people visiting because that's exactly what they're looking for, the disconnect from, the big city and big smoke, as they like to call it.
This is correct. Because once you leave Talkeetna, about 5 miles up the tracks, you lose all cell phone coverage.
Wow. Now, when we talk about your channel and what you bring on YouTube, you're very forthcoming, you and Sarah both, about the idea that you want to share your life with everybody, which you do. Now, from what we've known each other quite some time now, I think it's getting on a couple of years. Forgive me if it's not longer than that, Rob. But what I see is authenticity in your true willingness to share. My imagination tells me that the magic on your channel is that people who are thinking the way that you do find your content and it just clicks with them because they're like, yes, Exactly. And that introduction video that you've got featured on the front page today is a perfect example. But I really want to know what you think, because I can have my impression looking through a screen at your content. But where do you think the magic comes in your channel?
We try to keep it as simple as possible. If you see some of our earlier videos, we had an intro,
Mhm.
and we noticed we call it a hockey stick effect,
Okay.
where the videos go like this and they flatline.
Yes.
So we actually did away with any intros. I might talk for a couple seconds, but then it goes right into the video. And I think that's part of what's been helping, because I started right around the time that the channel really took off.
Hmm.
Um, and it seems to help a lot. Trying to add fluff, I don't want to do that. I
Yes.
want to see what's going on. Occasionally I might throw in a nice photo or a quick clip, but I don't
Hmm.
focus. I want people to see exactly how we're doing it, how we're living, what we're doing it,
Right.
and how we're doing it. Because if I add fluff, it's to me it's kind of taken it away.
Yes.
I want
Yes.
them to see, the authenticity of what we're doing here, and not try to either over dramatize it or
Hmm.
oversimplify it,
Yeah.
because there's nothing simple about being out here. And,
It doesn't seem like it. No.
and to dramatize it is just silly,
Yeah.
because it's not real drama. I don't want
Yeah.
nothing
Yeah.
to do. I want it to be real. I want it to be how Sarah and I are. And how you see us interact in our videos is how we interact together and off camera.
It seems that way. It really does. I think you both have we use the word charisma. It's not quite the right word, but you know what I mean. And I
Yes.
think people can get your authenticity. When you talk about the idea of intros, that's a great tip. I know a lot of our friends won't like to hear it, but when you take the intros out of your videos or cut them very, very short, videos might do better. I've had the same success myself. Everything doubled, tripled, and quadrupled the second I took them off. While you're saying you don't add any fluff to your videos, and from what I've seen, it's absolutely true. You actually do a great job with editing, between putting the photos in, not having the dead voices in between the scenes and things like that. But I noticed that most of your videos are very lengthy. And a lot of people ask me all the time, what's the right time, size of a video? How long should it be? And my advice is always, it should be however long it should be. Those are kind of the words similar to YouTube would say, if you don't want to add fluff, but you also don't want to cut out good parts because you're trying to aim. But you do really well with lengthy videos. So what do you think is the magic behind why that is for your channel?
I try to keep people engaged with what I'm doing. I tried, what doesn't always happen, try to change the scene, every 5 to 15 seconds, sometimes longer.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to do an overabundance of speed ups, but if I do, they're short.
Yes.
Um, trying to when it comes time to editing, that's, as you know, is one of
Mm-hmm.
the challenging parts, because you got to figure out what's going to be the best for the content. But the lengthwise, the last few weeks have actually been a little shorter.
I see a couple of the latest videos. Again, we're talking on March 11th, so things will
Yep.
be different by the time most people are watching this. But I've seen a couple of like the trail cam videos are down to 5 minutes and 7 minutes or however long. Yes.
And that's because we haven't had a lot of critters.
Right.
Well, they're in the area, but they're away from where the cameras are. So that part's that's why those ones are a little shorter.
Hmm.
Um, Other videos, I don't think people want to see me sawing wood.
To a point, maybe for a few seconds yet.
Right, but if I'm building something, like with Sarah's studio, there was a lot of downtime, and I wasn't gonna have, or not her studio, but when I was doing the drawers and the extra
Yeah.
space for her storage,
Yep.
I didn't want people to sit there and have to worry about, "Oh my god, how long is this gonna take? Am I gonna have to watch all this?"
Yes.
No,
Yes.
that's why I try to do it, the cutting and all that stuff off camera, and then assembled them in the shop or in
Yes.
the space that we're putting them in. It made it
Yeah.
a lot easier.
Right. I find that people like to see the steps. When I started on YouTube myself, it was with a channel doing light construction, but
Mhm.
instinctively knew right away. They just want to see the steps. As long as it's 7, 8 seconds, they don't need to see
Yes.
me push a machine around for half an hour. But I watched the video that you're talking about. I literally just watched it last week. And that's where you had the extra storage space, and you built those drawers. And
Mhm.
that's when I said, wow, this guy like really knows what he's doing, because measuring and cutting, I mean, I've done a tiny bit of it, but it's a headache to me. But you seem natural at it. And I thought it was great. And that's a perfect piece of content, in my opinion, for somebody thinking about doing what you're doing, to say,
Mhm.
hey, let me see how they've done it. What can I do? Where can I find extra space? Not a lot of us have extra space, but if you do, under a staircase or anywhere at all, you could do something like Rob did. So, what inspired you to do that particular video, if you remember?
Because it was a lot of extra wasted space. We had actually we've been trying to figure out what to do with, we call them the wings, because
Okay.
they're on the outside of where the building were, and they were already natural supports there when the original owner had built the house. He had
Okay.
just studded it all in to give it extra support, because if you know construction, if you have a real steep peak and nothing in between to hold the walls, it's going to start kicking out and it's going to start
That
coming
makes
down.
sense. Yeah.
So he put these, we call them knee walls, waist walls, whatever you want to call it, about 4 feet in
Right.
to give a little bit of support there. And I'm like, that's a lot of dead space.
Yeah.
And I looked at Sarah and we looked at some stuff on Pinterest, on YouTube, and it's like, let's just put drawers in there.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so we ordered up all the drawers and away it went. And I've actually still got about another dozen to do on the opposite side of the room.
Okay. Wow. Yeah. Hopefully, you have the time on your hands to do it all, because you're seeming like a busy guy. You and Sarah both, and but at the same time, completely relaxed at all
Yeah.
times. Yeah,
Yeah.
which is great.
There's no reason to get stressed out on things. I mean, we're both retired. We live here. I mean, we got beautiful scenery around us, and why stress? I mean, there's days that we might only do one or two small projects, and that's it.
Right.
You know? But we have that luxury of doing that because we're of retirement. Not everybody can do that. Now, like our
That's,
friends in town that are off grid, they can only do things on the weekend and the evenings.
yeah, it makes sense. Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it takes you 3 times as long, or you're busting your butt longer. Where I can do everything a little bit more leisurely.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense the way you put it. I also noticed in your intro that you were talking about the inspiration in wanting to move somewhere, and it didn't necessarily mean Alaska. And I won't spoil the whole intro video. I want people to go and watch it, because I think it was perfectly done. And the views alone, I forget how many views it's got on it, but that speaks to it as well. But you were looking for somewhere in a cooler climate, which I can totally relate to. I can't take the heat. Absolutely. I like everything 2, 3 degrees colder than everyone. But now that you've been there, and I'll have to ask you how long it's been. Has it been 3 years or longer?
We're in our fourth winter, so
There you go.
by August 10th this year, it'll be 4 years.
There you go. So how do you find what your imagination would have told you it would be like living there? And I'm really thinking about the climate more than anything else right now, compared to what the reality of being there.
We thought it was gonna be a lot colder.
Oh, really?
Yes. Fortunately for us, we are smack in the middle of what they call thermal inversion.
Okay.
Our property usually stays about 10 to 15 degrees warmer than town does, and
Oh,
sometimes 20 to 30 degrees warmer than places down like Willow or Wasilla.
wow.
It's the reason is where our elevation is higher and we get a little bit more sun.
Mm-hmm.
So there was days this year where we were in the 30s, and down in say Willow, it was -5, -10.
Okay.
2 years ago in February, down in Willow, it was -52, and that evening, Sarah actually went to town to go visit some friends, and when she went down to the train tracks, it was -20.
Wow. This is the kind of thing I think people are going to specifically want to learn, from somebody who's done what they're thinking about doing. If they're thinking about moving to Alaska or even moving into a different climate, that's going to be gold for somebody who wants to do what you're doing. So it's great. I'm, obviously learning more than I even expected already in our conversation here. After you got the channel started, what do you think is the magic? Because at some point I got to talk about the fact that you had a video that just went through the roof. We talked about it, and I was very, very lucky. And Rob, I should thank you again, because we message each other on Instagram occasionally, and he let me know right away, hey Kev, something's happening on our channel, and you got to see this. This is exciting. And that video just exploded, and
Yep.
everything around it took off. So now that I didn't do a very nice segue there, but what do you think led up to that explosion for your channel?
At first, the channel was very slow to start, and then it was around the time I met you,
Yeah.
your channel, it started growing a little bit, and then we got to January of last year. We only had we hit our 1,000 subs, and then
Okay.
it was really going slow. In between January to September of
Hmm.
24, we only gained 300 subs.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So it was really slow, but we managed to get our watch hours, so we managed to get monetized, things like
Hmm.
that. And we were getting ready to go do our supply runs for the wintertime. And I
Yeah.
said, well, I think I'm just going to film this. We've never done a shopping thing or anything like that. And
Yeah.
I checked it out online, and it showed favorability of doing well.
That's good.
We did it. Only thing I didn't really do is I didn't film a whole lot in the store, and I kind of regret that because I had a lot of people asking about that. They wanted to see
Oh,
the
I see.
comparison, the prices, and honestly, I think what it was is people really curious what it's like to live here and have to shop here, and I think that's what brought everybody in, and it
Right.
exposed us to a lot of other people that are like-minded on living this way or wanting to be curious to be how we live, as well as
Mhm.
the group that just are into shopping. And I guess there's a huge following of people that do shopping videos. And
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I'm not surprised now that you mention it that way. Yes.
yeah, so I think a combination of it being a shopping video and us being rather unique on where and how we get home. You
Yeah.
know, is that
Absolutely. Yes.
a lot of the comments on that video were about the train.
Oh.
Was that a bus I just saw on the tracks? Was that a truck on the tracks? Was that a tractor? Stuff like that. And it's like, yeah.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I think it was a combination of the shopping and where we're at.
Yeah. Yeah. I looked off to the side there because I got your channel up on another screen in case I want to reference something. I was about to say the video got 1 million views, but no, you're clearly well beyond 2 million now.
I
Which,
haven't
so just to recap for everybody watching right now, this channel, Curmudge in Alaska, had what I understand to be 1,300 subscribers as of September 24. We're now in March of 25, barely 6 months later. And you had a video that hit 2 million views, which was a fantastic start to an explosion on the channel. I keep referencing it, and now almost 50,000 subscribers. That
Yep.
has to be not only exciting, but do you find it to be overwhelming?
At first, yes, because I'm the type that if there's a comment, I try to reply.
Right. Yeah.
So that night when we went to bed after that one come out, it was already around 5 or 6,000.
Yeah.
And when we get up the next morning, it was over 25.
My
By
goodness.
noon, it was over 120. And it just kept going up and up and up. And it was around that time period when I get up the next day, I said, "Hey, Kev, this is what's going
Yeah.
on. Wow."
Wow. Yeah.
And I don't think I left the computer for like 3 days.
I bet.
And replying to
Yeah.
comments and just watching the number because Sarah and I were both in awe because they're just going like this, it's
Yeah.
going up
Yeah.
and up and up. And we were being contacted by yourself, Jerry from Butler Family Farm, Tiffany
Yeah.
from Canadian Family. Sorry,
Yeah. Yeah.
and it just the support of the other YouTubers that we know was
Mhm.
amazing.
Well, that's
And
great. And I'm happy to hear you say that because, to get 2 million views on a video and still care about the 100 friends, that you've
yes,
had really, I think speaks to something. I'm not surprised to hear that from you, but I hope everybody uses that as a takeaway, that you still can have gratitude even when things are going spectacularly well.
yes.
That's great.
I don't unfortunately get a chance to attend all of your sessions that you have with
Oh,
Tuber
nobody
Chat,
can. Yeah.
but I have made a lot of good friends from you.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
Tiffany, Jerry, I can't even count them all.
Hmm.
Backyard Trucker Jody. I mean, there's the list can go on and on and on.
Yeah.
It just the community of Tuber Chat is just amazing. And just because I'm successful, I'm not the type to say, and I'm gone.
I want to give you a little bit of time after that video blew up because it was obvious you were going to like blow right through 10,000 subscribers and everything else. But I want to give you a little bit of time because I imagined it would have been overwhelming so that you could kind of absorb it all and live through a couple of extra live streams. Because I remember you went live a few days later, did a lot of thank yous to people and things like that. And you continue to do live streams. So I know you said you've got one coming up tomorrow. By the time people watch this, it will have passed. But how often are you doing live streams or planning to do live streams now that the weather's even improving?
We try to do them at least once a month, but it doesn't always happen. The
Mhm.
reason we used to do them weekly,
Yeah.
but it kind of got a little stressful trying to make sure that we're back on time or that we're ready on time. So
Hmm.
at first we cut it back to bi-weekly, and then I'm just like, okay, let's just do one a month, and if we can toss another one in here and there, we can.
Oh, that's
It's
great. Yeah.
up here you lose track of time really quick. I mean, there's times we don't look at a calendar or a clock for weeks.
Like a
You know,
casino.
yeah. So we want to make sure that we get time to do what we got to do. Because if I get into a project, I don't like to stop.
Right. Yes.
And that can be a downfall up here because especially in the summertime, well, I'll stop when it's dark. Well, it don't
Yeah.
really get dark. And our first year was hard because we would be up until 11 o'clock and not have eaten dinner.
Right. I understand.
So part of doing the lives is I want to make sure number one, I don't want to overdo them where
Right.
people, oh, it's just gonna be the same thing over again. I want people to be able to think about questions prior to the live.
Right.
This week
Yeah.
I didn't give much notification this week, but there's a couple of reasons behind that. I've got a lot of other things going on that I'm trying to get done. So I
Yeah.
just said, no, let's do one. But generally, I'll give 2 to 3 week notice in between the lives so people can ask questions. And I'll usually put a poll out. If you have questions, post them here.
Yeah.
And it makes it a little easier so we can know what they're wanting to know.
It's great that you're so engaged with the audience in that way. It's a downfall of a lot of us, myself included, not nearly as much engagement as I should or anybody should. But is that what drove you to do the midwinter update video? I'm going to direct everybody to another video on your channel, which I watched as well, and it shows an example of how after you got that one successful video that I referenced with the 2 million views for now, the first one to hit 2 million views, when you did the midwinter update and went through the freezer and showed everybody the food and the state and things like that, it didn't look to me like you changed your style at all, which is great. I'm so happy to see that like you didn't let the success push you to change the way that you're doing your videos because that's what got you where you are right now. Is it the community engagement that inspired you to do that midwinter update video?
Yes, because we were getting actually a number of emails and a lot of comments saying, "Hey, how's it going? How much do you have left?"
Mhm.
Things like that. I'm like, you know what? We need to do an update.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was kind of good because I learned that I was low on some stuff.
Yeah. Well, I
You
saw
know,
it's funny. Somebody like myself who's not expecting to go through that at least for not for a long time. You wonder though, like, wow, these guys have to buy 6 months worth of food all at once, and you better be rationing out those meals and planning. And spoiler alert on the video, obviously halfway through the winter you're like, oh, we used more of some of the stuff and less of the other stuff, and now you
Yeah.
got to deal with that. One of the things people struggle with is wasted food. So you got to like
Yes.
not waste but enjoy what you're doing at the same time. So I think it's great that you're doing those kind of updates. And
Mhm.
I think it's great that you're still doing the like renovations and utilizing the space, like that video we referenced earlier, talking about wasted space. What
Yep.
about the outdoors more? Because I'm an indoor guy, so I focus on the indoors. But how do you find the comparison with your viewers with indoor content versus outdoor content, if that makes any sense?
It's the indoor outdoor content can be iffy. We have
Okay.
people that want to see the outside, but we have
Mhm.
a lot of people that want to see the inside stuff or, the technical aspect of it. Everybody's wanting to know more about the solar and the power. But then I have people, what's the scenery like out there? Can you go walking? Can you go down to a river? Can you go to a lake?
Right.
Um, I don't know if you know, I'm into prospecting. So I get a lot of, people that are into prospecting. Hey, do you have creeks you can go gold painting in, stuff like that?
Yes.
So I'm trying to even out how I do things in that. But summertime, we do a lot more outside
Okay.
because, we don't have the cold temperatures or, 20 feet of snow.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So yeah, trying to find wintertime outdoor content is a little harder. I will take people out on the snow machine, things like that. But the issue here is we're kind of in a little bit of a bowl. We're
Okay.
trapped on one side by the Susitna River, and then
Mhm.
to our east, it's all steep hills.
Oh wow.
And unless we have a certain amount of snow, there's no go.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So there's only so much I can really show in the wintertime of outside. Now, summertime, it's a lot different. We do go hiking, we go down to the lake
Right.
and stuff like that. So we're hoping to be able to bring a lot more of that coming soon.
Yeah, it must be beautiful views. I'm sure you get tons of comments from people just, like in awe.
This
Okay.
year it's been a really odd winter.
Hmm.
We didn't get a lot of snow. We
Right.
had
Okay.
only about a foot up until I think it was late January, early February. And then
Right.
we had a 3-day storm where it would snow heavily for a couple hours, and then we get a couple hours of downpours. So
Right.
we got it probably equated to about 4 feet of snow, but it compacted down and turned into like concrete of about
Yeah.
2 feet. So
Right.
right now we've only got about 2.5 feet of snow on the ground, and that's all we've
Wow.
had. It's
So
bad.
we I have learned from other YouTubers, not in the Tuber Chat family or anything, just a few people who've had like over 100,000 and this and that, instinctively just grown. And one of the thoughts that comes out of what they've done, because they happen to be around, here in Canada, is snow means money. So when it snows, you go out and you film it because people don't always get to see it. So my
Yeah.
question for you, not so much about snow, but about what you're doing, how would you say the comparison is between viewers that are already doing what you're doing and that's why they're watching, or it's people who are just interested in what you're doing, or people who are thinking about living the lifestyle you've created for yourself and they're looking for inspiration?
Whew, that's a hard one to call. Between the comments, the emails, and stuff like that, I would say a majority of them are people that would love to be able to do it, but right now cannot.
Yes.
Either be it financial or health reasons or family obligations. We do
Yeah.
have a number of, a good portion that also want to do it, but don't know where they want to go to do it. They
Makes sense.
want Alaska, but they're afraid of the temperature differences, things like that.
Yeah.
Then we have the ones that are doing it already, but just in different areas.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's all over the place, but the ones that are the most are the ones that are living vicariously through us or
I
other
see.
YouTubers
Yeah.
like that.
Makes Makes sense what you say. And I should have asked you earlier, but how do you feel about your choice then? Because you explored the idea of, you said Montana, you said possibly even Tennessee, upstate New York. You were just looking for that little bit of a cooler climate. So now that you've been there for 4 years, is there regret to like maybe we should have gone somewhere else, or are you happy and content? And No plan
Oh
to
no,
move.
no plan to move. We're extremely content and happy here.
That's
I
great.
don't think we could live anywhere else. And part of the saying is up here for people that move here and fall in love with it is Alaska ruins you to live anywhere else.
Yes, yes. I wonder if that's why the cruise is so popular, right? People have always talked about the Alaskan cruise. Some of our
Yep.
friends are doing one this summer. And I've always wondered about the appeal. It was something my father used to want to see. And I said, why would you go somewhere cold when you can go to a beach? And I'm not a beach guy either, but yeah, as I've gotten older, I've gotten to understand, and especially through YouTube, Alaska just seems to have this popularity over the last couple of years, and I don't know what that is. Maybe it's people like yourself that are bringing that through the YouTube, platform and things like that.
And I think that is part of it. There is such a wide variety of what you're going to see here. You're going to see the temperate rainforest like you would see in British Columbia, which
Hmm.
is going to be down southeast, Juneau, Wrangell, stuff like that. And then you come up a little higher, you're getting more kind of like the Rockies almost, but just colder. And then you
Hmm.
get further north than we are, and then you're in the tundra areas with mountains and places. You see such a wide variety, and we've got, I think the same, if not more, coastal line than the lower 48.
Okay, yeah,
There's so much to do here that it's so vast. People don't realize how big Alaska is. For us
yeah,
to
it
drive,
is. Yeah.
yeah, for us to drive from here to go caribou hunting up on the North Slope, you're looking at a 19-hour drive.
Oh, okay, even larger than I think, and I was thinking
Yeah,
about a map, understanding how uh, how far it is, but no, much farther than I even thought. Wow, yeah,
yeah. And there's only so many roads in Alaska.
it makes sense what you say. Yes.
Yeah, there's nothing that goes west.
And how do the puppies feel about it? You added a new family member a few months ago,
Yeah, Zeus, he actually likes it up here because once we got here, he doesn't go on a lead except for when we're in town.
right?
And then we got Mishka this past summer, and well, I mean, she's just full of beans. She's young.
Yeah,
She don't listen, but she knows that if she goes too far, she's going to get herself in trouble.
yeah, yeah.
You know, she hasn't had the run-ins with the moose or the bears yet, and I think
Okay,
once she smells them, it'll change her attitude. Now, she smelled the wolves, and for I'd probably say about 3 or 4 days after they came through, she didn't want nothing to do with being outside.
yeah, yeah, no doubt.
So
Well,
she realized that is a predator, and she didn't want nothing to do with it.
yeah, well, that's really interesting. Much a different lifestyle than somebody like myself. I find myself getting more caught up in your lifestyle and what you're doing up there out of fascination. And I haven't talked very much about YouTube other than the start of your channel. So how are things going today? How are you enjoying it?
The YouTube aspect of it,
Hmm.
oh, I love it. It gives
Yeah.
me something to do. It gives me something to, I'm a thinker. I like to have something going in my head at all times,
Okay.
and kind of planning out what to do next and how to video it kind of takes up a good portion of my time,
Right.
as well as getting the projects done, of course.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't realize this. I'm not new to YouTube. This is
Okay.
actually my fourth channel.
Oh goodness, even I didn't know that. Okay. Yeah.
I
Wow.
I started off about 15 years ago with an outdoor channel doing reviews of outdoor gear, camera gear, stuff like that. And
Wow.
then I went into my sailing mode,
Hmm.
and I had my sailing channel mixed in with my tea company one, and I had channels for both those. And then I kind of ran low on time because I was on multiple businesses.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I didn't post all that much on the last two. And then when we came here, I'm like, no, those are kind of out of the way now. So we've got to do something.
Mhm. Wow. Wow. Do those channels still exist?
They do, but most of the content's been removed because I was pulling some of it off and using clips and excerpts in current videos.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
that makes sense. Yeah.
you'll see some of the stuff, Rob's past life videos. That's where a lot of those
Oh,
came from.
okay. That makes sense.
Between the sailing and then some of the outdoor photography things, because a lot of my stuff I'd be testing camera gear, and I
Hmm.
go out in
Hmm.
the woods and run around and do that with that stuff. So I'm
Right.
not new to this. At one point, my outdoor channel had around 30,000 subs.
Oh goodness. Okay, yeah. So you're not new to this at all.
No.
My dear goodness. Yeah, I
But back
noticed in. Go ahead.
let's see, back then though, you were monetized instantly. You didn't have to go
Right.
through the
Yeah.
1,000 subs or the 4,000 watch hours. You if you put the video up on, you click that little button and you made money.
Yeah, things have changed a lot over the years. You've seen it all. I've only been on for 7 or 8 years now. You've been on twice as long as that, so you've seen changes that I can't even imagine already. And
Yeah.
how do you feel about the platform now with the changes that you've seen since, let's say, just the beginning of this channel 3, 4 years ago?
Well, when I first signed, redoing the YouTube to get this channel going, I was like, "What do you mean you got to have 1,000 subs and 4,000 watch hours? That don't make no sense. It wasn't like that
Yeah,
before."
yeah,
Um, there's a lot more useful information that you can get from YouTube on here. They have, the suggestions. The
mhm,
shorts are new now. They didn't have shorts when I was doing it.
right,
So you have a couple ways you can do it, and the information you could find about doing it is a little easier than like music.
okay.
When I was doing it before, it would take me hours to find a song that I could
Oh,
use without
mhm,
getting a copyright strike, and I've
yeah,
had a couple of those on my older channels, and they
mhm,
didn't make no sense.
yeah,
But
I understand.
the how works now is much better than it was when I first started doing it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I could see how somebody would say that. I imagine that some of our friends who've just started in the last year or two might be upset with the changes that have happened, but I try to let everybody know from time to time it's actually easier today than it was so long ago. And like I said, I've only been on half the time that Rob has, right? Where we are talking 7 or 8 years, but when you've been here since almost the beginning, YouTube's
Yeah,
only been here for what, 16, 17 years, right? And you've been on most of that time. But things are easier for people today, at least than they were several years ago, if that makes any sense. We're seeing channels monetized faster than ever.
yes.
I know it feels like an eternity, but there's a lot of stories that we tell about how much more of a struggle it seemed to be back in the day. And you mentioned shorts for a second there. How are you enjoying making shorts around your area there?
Shorts are hard for me.
Oh, okay. Why is that?
Well, number one, I'd rather show it all.
Okay.
'Cause a lot of our like scenery and stuff like that, it's hard to get it in on that little vertical screen.
Yeah, no, it makes sense what you
Yeah,
say. Yeah.
you put it horizontal, you can get more of it in there, but that's the old photographer in me,
Hmm.
using a regular camera.
Yeah.
And I never really got the views or anything like that with it. And I found that a lot of my subscribers that I got off of it would leave quickly because
Yeah, we hear that a lot. It's like different audiences on our channels. Yes.
if they came in to see a quick scenery shot, they like it. Oh, I'll come back and watch more of them. And then they find out there's only a few of them. They're like, oh,
Right.
I'm done. I'm out of here.
I
And
understand.
now with the vertical lives, I find that brings a lot more trolls.
Oh, absolutely. Brings a lot more of everything, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's a different audience
Yeah,
typically that's going to watch in vertical format.
yeah.
Yeah.
But I try to put at least one out a month. And
Okay.
a
Yeah.
lot of times I intentionally film something just for a short, and then I get sidetracked. I get squirreled. So
Yeah. Yeah. You can
I don't
always film and not use it yet.
right. That's
Yeah.
what I look at. If I have the footage, I have the footage.
Right.
If I don't have the footage, I'm like, man, kick
Yeah.
myself in the butt.
So people will often ask about equipment and things like that. Now, I insist anybody should just start with whatever they've got. I'm sure you will agree, but
Yep.
with a photographer in you, and I'm curious about what kind of equipment you're using up there now, because if I'm not mistaken, you film with a GoPro at times. I'm assuming you're using a regular webcam right now, but is that any of that correct?
Yes and no. I'm actually using my MacBook right now for
Oh,
the for
okay, just with the through the computer. Yes, I understand.
um
Okay.
I I've actually still got my original GoPro 3.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay.
It
Yeah.
still works. I have a GoPro 3, GoPro 5, GoPro 11.
Hmm.
I actually prefer the 5 over the 11. I have the
Right.
11 set up for doing night shots for like the aurora borealis, but other than that, that's all I use it for because don't get mad GoPro, but the battery's not very good.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. Yeah.
They overheat. This summer, my brother, who's my best friend, sent
Hmm.
me up an Insta360 X4 and an
Right.
Insta360 X or Ace Pro, and
Okay.
that's all I use anymore.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
That's all. I mean, my phone on occasion, but generally it's those cameras there.
Interesting. That's really interesting to know. And yeah, I also happen to have a GoPro 5. They changed the chip back in the day. There was a patent dispute and all this, and GoPro, it used to be able to do photos and video at the same time. Now
Mhm.
it can't. There's other companies that can, but GoPro had to switch their thing. Sometimes we take two on us at a time so we can take photos and video at the same time. I notice you mix photos into your videos occasionally.
Yes.
Do you do that on the fly? Like, do you do it at the same time? Or are you like, wait a second, okay, I just finished talking. Let me take a picture and then I'll continue on? Or do you go around and do the pictures separately?
It all depends on what it is. Like
Yeah,
if I see a shot that I know would look good, I'll take it at that time. But it's a lot of times because I've walked this area so much and places in town. If I
yeah,
know I've got a better shot of town that's in my stockpile of hard drives, I
hmm,
just use one of those.
yeah.
I mean,
Wow.
unfortunately, I've probably got at least a dozen, at least 4 terabyte hard drives that are full.
I understand. Yeah. Well, when we have a lifetime of computer usage, and especially, yeah, as a photographer, you'd expect to have that. I
Yeah.
described that to the idea of backing up our stuff is so important. But obviously, you've got lots of that and been through that. So one of the other questions I was going to ask you then, how much of the filming does Sarah either do or help with?
It took about a year to get Sarah to even be comfortable in front of the camera. Her
Okay.
her thing is if she's filming, she's worrying about the jerkiness of going around.
Yes.
So that's part of the reason why we love the Insta360 X4 because
Mhm.
it does the 360 video in it, and I can just make it follow me.
Right. There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
So, but she will help move lights if she's not in the shot. She'll move lights around for me.
Hmm.
She'll hand me things, stuff like that. But she's still a little bit on the shy side of being
Oh,
on
okay.
the video on a regular
I'm
basis.
shocked to hear you say that because she seems as natural as you when the two of you are together. Maybe there's a confidence that comes in your conversation. I know generally in your videos, when you're together, you tend to speak a little bit more, maybe two, double what she does and this, that. But she's in there. She's in
Yeah.
there and seems comfortable enough, which is great. Who was holding the camera while the helicopter was dropping off the stove and things that I
That
saw?
was actually on a tripod in the snow.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I wondered because yeah, with the helicopter, the wind's going crazy. It's not the stove; it's the other thing that was like swaying back and forth and
Yeah.
spinning around and everything else. But that's got to be interesting for people to know. Like, wow, you have to have things delivered by helicopter because there's nothing else that can bring it to where you are.
Right. Well, I mean, we probably could have gotten up here on the trail service or on our trail system,
Okay.
but I wasn't going to risk the stove because if it falls over, I can't get it back onto the trailer.
Oh, that makes sense. Yes, what you say.
That stove is 900, almost to 1,000 pounds, and
Hmm.
by myself, I'm not getting that on back on the trailer, let alone into the house. I
Yeah.
actually, with when we had that stove delivered, I built a landing platform out there for it that was
Oh
the
wow.
same level as the house.
Hmm.
They dropped it on it and we slid it in.
Right. Yeah. That very smart move. That must have been a lot of work, but saved
Yeah.
a lot of headache in the end. Wow.
Yep.
So I keep sidetracking back into your lifestyle more so than the YouTube aspect of everything. but you seem to be doing really well. I mean, the views are obvious, the subscribers are obvious. So, what can you tell some of our friends? Because you've been with me and with us for a couple of years now. What can you tell everybody that you would give as basically advice? Knowing what you've been through over at least the last couple of years before things started to really take off.
Be consistent,
Hmm.
be yourself.
Okay.
Try not to dramatize anything,
Hmm.
and just do what you got to do. I mean, be the big thing is be yourself on the camera. Because if you're
Yeah.
not going to be yourself, if you run into a subscriber in town and you act differently, that's going to reflect.
Yes. Yes, for
You
sure.
know, don't try to do silly things.
Okay.
Just be yourself. Be
Hmm.
consistent with the videos and how they come out, and don't change your format every other week.
Okay. Okay.
I've seen that a lot, and I've seen people changing their names constantly.
Yeah.
Pick a
It could be common. Yes.
yeah, pick a name and stick with it. Only we changed ours about a year ago, and
Okay.
we added Alaska behind it
Oh, I
because
see. Okay.
we
Okay.
had AK there, but people like, oh, you're from Arkansas? Nope, we're
Yeah, I
Alaska.
forgot about that, but yes, I feel like I remember that now. Yes. Wow.
Yep. So just make sure you're happy with what you're doing too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be happy with what you're doing, and
Mhm.
don't be afraid to show your mistakes.
For sure, for sure, yes. I often will say that people come to YouTube for YouTube. If they wanted television and movies, they would go to television and movies, right?
Yep.
A lot of us, it's one of the things we talk about. I try to be forthcoming about my own mistakes. And I told a story the other day. My best performing personal video has more mistakes than almost any other. And I've cut two mistakes out of it, and they're still there. But it doesn't matter. You know what I mean? Those things don't matter as much as we think that they do. People come here for real, and
Yes.
and that's what you and Sarah seem to give on your channel. So it makes sense what you say. So I have a question about your consistency then. So you've been consistent over all this time, at least for the most part, even when you say like you're spacing out the live streams so that you don't have to miss them and things like that. So that's great. And you feel that that served you well then.
Yes. And out of, I think we started the channel in 21, but we didn't really post on it for about 6 months after that. And then since then, I think I've only missed 1 week.
Oh wow. Well, that's more consistent than I even expected. Even when people say they're consistent, it can be tough, but that's great. Do you find yourself planning videos and scheduling them out in advance?
When I can, I do. Generally in the wintertime, I'm able to edit a bunch out and have them in the background waiting to be released.
Okay.
But summertime, it's a little harder because we get so busy,
Hmm.
and I'll get caught up and I'm like, oh no, I've got to go back and edit some videos out. And in the summertime, I'd rather be outside than sitting behind a desk.
Right, yeah. Before we started filming, actually, I was asking about the idea of bookings, right? If you have people come up and visit, because the idea is that it's a completely off grid homestead. So, we're talking two things at once, not just the joy of homesteading and the activities. And Rob, in his videos, invites people that if you're going to come and visit, then you're free to relax the whole time if you want, or come and engage in some of the activities. Sarah does a
Yes.
lot of the gardening. I heard her describe the way that she does that. You've invited people to come and do some woodworking, or, like I said, you're always building something, which is great. Now, we talked right before we started recording. You were saying you're not doing bookings right this second. Are you intending on bringing that back afterwards?
Yes. As soon as we have the chance and our friends that are using the cabin are no longer using it, we will be bringing, everything up to par. Well, not up to par, but everything up and ready to go.
Right.
Where people can get online. I'm actually going to do my own website for it. I was going to use Airbnb, but the problem with that is, especially in the wintertime, the train only runs a couple times a month.
Hmm.
So we can't have overlaps.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you I mean, so we can't have this. So it's the booking is going to have to be done old school. It's not
Yeah.
going to be. It'll be on the website, but you're going to have to call me to book because number one,
Some people like that. Hmm.
I need to make sure you understand what you're getting into. I
Hmm.
need to know if I'm going to need to be cooking for you or having food supplied.
Right.
If you're capable of even walking up the trail.
Oh,
It's
wow.
a
Yeah.
mile. It's a mile from the house to the tracks, and it's uphill. It's
Oh,
uphill.
yeah.
So you've got to be in the right condition.
Yeah.
But we also want to, let people experience off grid. If somebody wants to shadow me, they can. If they
Hmm.
want to
Yeah.
get their hands dirty, they can. And
Right.
eventually, once we want to get to the point where we can have a couple workshops a year up here so
Hmm.
people can see what we're doing and how to do it. I'd like to see more people succeed that come to Alaska instead
Hmm.
of failing. Every five people that come to Alaska to move, three of them fail.
Oh, wow.
It's not very good odds.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, and most is because they fail to prepare,
Makes sense. Yeah.
and or they fail because they don't have the knowledge and they're too afraid to ask somebody. Don't be afraid to
Yeah.
ask somebody.
I could see how pride could get in somebody's way and say, no, I don't want to, I don't want to ask for the help that's needed. But it's nice that you're there to offer that. My guess is that you've got other people that you've either met or are, I dare I say, neighbors with around there that would be of the same mindset. Like attracts like a lot of the time.
Yep. Yep. Now
And
we
it's good.
have good support up here. If we have questions, we can always make a phone call and somebody will
Right.
have an answer for us or help us find an answer.
Right. It's good that you're able to share all this on your channel with people as well. So we've talked about authenticity. I think that's what has drawn me to you in the first place, and I'm so impressed that, like I said, you haven't seemed to change in the videos that I've seen, even since the channel really took off. And hopefully there's going to be more of the same success. Have you got plans for any different kinds of content that you haven't already done on the channel?
No, well, you've seen how we were doing the outdoor cam.
Okay.
Where I show the mountain and stuff like that using my security cameras. I'm actually probably going to start a second channel just for that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Where I can leave it running for hours and hours and hours, and it just goes to that because unfortunately we did have a lot of complaints
Oh,
when I did those, and I'm like, number one, it sounds mean, but it's my channel.
yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't want to lose subs.
Of
So if
course.
I if I just put the camera facing Denali or McKinley, whatever you want to call it, we still call
Yeah.
it Denali. If I have it facing that, or if I know there's a critter running around in the yard, I can put it on them. And
Right.
have it streaming that, and it's not going to affect the other channel. I can still send people over to the other channels.
Of course. Yeah. A little bit of cross promotion will help.
Yeah.
Are the complaints coming in? I'll just ask you straight. What is the complaint about?
I'm here to learn about you.
Oh, okay. And it's a
Oh, it's,
camera. Yeah.
yeah, they want to see us. They want to interact with us, or
Yes.
they want to see what we're doing so they can learn something. Which I understand. That's kind of why we
Hmm.
created the channel.
Yeah.
But we love the scenery so much here. We just want to share it with everybody. So that's why I just come to
Yeah.
the conclusion. I'm just going to create a sub channel for that.
Wow, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I myself personally, I never. It's not that I don't recommend that people start a second channel. I recommend that people put a lot of consideration into it before they do it. But
Yep.
obviously, you've done this many times before, so that will make sense. And I'm sure there's an audience just for that as well. You know what I mean? I wonder if do you get any complaints from people who watch your regular content saying that they want more scenery?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah, yeah.
I want to
So
see what Alaska's really like.
that'll be a driver. That's great. That'll be a great combination. At least you've got a great head start here. So I should ask a few more questions about YouTube specifically. You know exactly what we've been through, what we're doing in Tuber Chat. It's primarily people starting the first years of their YouTube journey. So, what other ideas do you have for our audience about specific engagement? What can we do about enticing comments in the first place? I know you said you respond to a lot of comments, but how can we get those comments coming in?
give a challenge.
Okay.
Hey, was painting gold in a video, and I
Okay.
said, how much do you think is there?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And see who can guess.
Right. Yeah.
Make it interactive, and that seems to work really well.
Okay.
To engagement going both directions. You
Hmm.
know, if you give them a reason to comment, they will.
Okay.
And if you, like you said, if you interact with them, it's going to give them more incentive to talk back. I mean, I've had
Mhm.
full blown conversations on the big video that blew up.
Yeah.
Where I sit there for 20 minutes typing, and then I would respond back, and 20 minutes later, I'm typing again. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's you want to be as open about the stuff and interact as much as you can, because if you're going to interact, then they're going to say, well, this person's real.
Hmm.
And you want that interaction.
So let me ask you this then. When we're thinking about YouTube, I'm going to go back to that video because it's such an incredible story and thought. I insist that you did not do anything different, and Rob was kind enough to let me know what was happening in the days after the video started to move so I could understand. And I know I've asked you off camera already, but I insist I don't see anything different in that video from any of your other videos. Am I right about that, or was there something you can say that you did that made that video take off?
I can't think of anything, because it felt and looks just like my regular videos,
It
where we're
really
talking,
does.
that we're filming what we're doing. But yeah, no, it happened organically.
Yeah, right down to the thumbnail. I've inspected that video and tried to figure out if there's any key, and I just don't see anything, which means that, through your consistency, people's love of what you're actually doing, and then the stars must have aligned. But I mean, with the experience that you've got, obviously you can take photos, so the thumbnails are going to look good no matter what you're going to do. You got enough experience with titles and things like that. Are you doing enough? And forgive me for not having looked with my TubeBuddy plugin or any of that stuff. Are you doing all of the tags and description and considering titles and things like that?
We try to do as much of it as possible.
Okay.
I don't use the TubeBuddy. I do
Mhm.
use vidIQ,
Right. Yeah.
and that has helped us a lot. Titles that I thought would be okay. You
Oh,
know,
wow.
and,
Okay. That's good.
and
That's a
then
great tip, though.
yeah, and then I go back and say, let me try this one, and I put it into their system like you would with TubeBuddy. And it's like, that's better. How can I improve it? I mean, there's
Hmm.
times where I'll sit at this computer and
Hmm.
experiment with different title names for half an hour
Right.
to an hour until I
Yeah.
find something that coincides with what I'm doing and it sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not one for shock and awe,
Hmm.
coming up with the crazy titles. I think the craziest one was the big video,
Right. Okay.
crazy, Winter Hall.
Hmm.
That I try not to do that. I just try to title it the way I want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Makes sense.
one thing I will point out real quick is I was talking to a few other people, and titling, is always key. Thumbnail is always key. But
Hmm.
when you save your video on your computer,
Hmm.
give it the name as close to what you're going to title it as. Because when
Right.
you're uploading it, it sees that there. Like that video was called Shopping Haul Video.
That's right. Yes.
When it got into, and that's what I saved it on my computer as. When I got onto YouTube, I kind of keep the name as close as possible.
Yes.
And from what a few of us have learned, that has a big thing to do with it. You
Yes.
know, you get people that might name my dog Zeus. That's the name of the video, and it has nothing to do with your dog Zeus. It was
Right.
you off around in the woods. So
Yeah.
now it's confused. Looking for a dog named Zeus, and you're
Hmm.
up in the hole.
So you're talking about the file name, the name of the file that sits on your computer. So it would be, homesteading midwinter update .mp4.
Yep.
And that's a tip that I don't talk often enough about. And I'm glad that you brought that up because that is a piece of magic in this interview right now. And for people watching, I hope you will take this to heart. But everything from the video file on your computer, if you're using a computer. It may not be as easy if you're doing something on a phone, but where possible, if you can name the file that you're going to upload to YouTube for your video, as well as the thumbnail, as close to the title you think you're going to stick with. If you change it after, it's okay. But what we're talking about is keywords in the file name. And I'm glad that you brought this up, and I'm glad that you've experimented a little bit with it, because I absolutely subscribe to that idea as well, that we have to do every single thing that we can for the algorithm. No matter how
Yep.
smart we think that the algorithm is, it's smarter than we think. And even when I say that, it's smarter than we think, right?
Yeah. Yep. If you experiment with the things, you learn a little bit more. Don't be afraid to experiment with it. You know,
Right. Mm-hmm.
it's the only way that you're going to learn. It's part of science.
Mm-hmm. Well, how does Sarah feel about how everything's going with the YouTube channel? I'm assuming she's 100% supportive because she's with you doing it a lot of the time.
Oh yeah, it's just days that she don't want to be on the camera.
Oh, that's okay. There's days I don't want to be on.
Yeah, but I've been trying to get her to do more of her stuff, her art stuff, and that's why I've been doing
Oh,
the videos at her art studio to get it built so she could start doing her art again.
oh, very
And
cool. Yeah.
this week's video is going to be, some of the final touches on what she needed up there to get herself going up there to be able to do art. So
Wonderful.
that'll come out this week.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping I can get her to sit down and I can film her more.
Oh, I think anything might be possible. Yeah, if you can find a way to make her comfortable doing it, then by all means. Because, like I know, I said it earlier in our conversation, you can always film and not use it. You can always
Exactly.
upload something and delete it. You know what I mean? If you
Yeah.
want. Hmm.
Yep. And
Yeah.
just she doesn't have a problem with the YouTube at all. She find it at times she finds it a little silly. Why would you want to put that on there?
Oh, I
Because
understand. Yeah.
it's us. We're trying to show that we're unique and we're like everybody else. We make mistakes. We do things. We do things different.
Hmm. Right.
Nobody's just
Hmm.
and she's starting to really learn that, and she's probably over there nodding her head. She's on the couch.
Yeah. Well, which videos do you think, or do you feel, regardless of numbers and engagement and things like that, but which ones do you feel really um, click with your audience? Which are the ones that get the deepest connection with your viewers?
The Actually, like the one you were referring to earlier, the intro one.
Yeah.
People seem to like when we just sit there and talk to the camera and then interject videos or pictures around it.
Okay.
They seem to have really enjoyed that. But then they also like the construction stuff. Yeah, I do some weird construction. I use weird materials. How
Right.
many people roofed a building with old 55-gallon drums?
You got to be resourceful, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's I think anything that shows the uniqueness of how you can do things, I think is kind of my favorite videos to do.
Yeah.
Showing that you can be resourceful with what you have on hand.
Yeah. My guess is that that's what makes everything unique, right? Because
Yes.
somebody can watch as many Alaskan channels or homesteading channels as they want, but they'll find something different in every single video.
Oh yes, every channel up here is going to be different on how they do things.
Hmm.
Yeah, none of us do it the same way, and a lot
Right.
of us do the same thing multiple times, and it's still not the same.
Hmm. Well, what advice do you have then for somebody who is thinking about? I mean, you do live streams as well as shorts, as well as videos. What advice can you give to somebody that's not comfortable yet doing all of the different things, particularly live streams, to give somebody the kind of nudge that they need to get started with that?
For live streams, if you're uncomfortable, if you're uncomfortable doing the live stream with your face on there,
Hmm.
find a focus. Whether it be a scenic shot and just stand behind the camera and talk. For a
Okay.
long time, when I first started doing videos, I didn't want to be in front of the camera.
Oh
So
wow.
I would just show products and talk to the camera.
Hmm.
I always joke with everybody. I always told people I got the face for radio.
Yep.
So that's how I felt for a long time, and it took me years to become comfortable in front of a camera, and we weren't gonna do lives, and then somebody said, "Do some lives."
Wow.
And, okay, we'll try it, and Sarah was really reserved,
Yeah.
for the first couple, and then she finally broke her shell, and she come out and was able to chat more, and I can be a chatterbox anyways. We call that bush syndrome up here. You don't talk to people except for your significant other for months at a time.
Yeah.
You go down and you do a
Yeah.
lot
No
of
doubt.
talking.
Yeah, I'm a little bit. I'm just kind of surprised to hear you say that because yeah, I mean you both, but especially yourself, Rob, like seem so natural. I wouldn't have guessed that there wasn't a day where you just like, oh, okay, let's turn the camera on and do this. But so it's interesting for you to say we all feel that way. Even myself, I've done Tuber Chat now 800 times, and I came from radio actually, and things like that. But I've done my share of public speaking and everything else, if you want to call it that. And still, I have the tiniest amount of anxiety, is what I like to describe it as. When it's time to start something or do something, I take my deep breath right before every Tuber Chat episode. You know what I mean? Even though it's going to go fine, and
Yep.
all that. But yeah, it's interesting what you say. But I hope that that kind of thing can resonate with somebody when you see Rob on the camera, when you see a lot of our friends. That talk about the things we're talking about here, saying like, "Hey, I was nervous to do it in the first place, and then I just started to do it." When they see how natural you seem at it today, somewhere between here and there is the point where maybe they'll get started. So that's what we're hoping.
Yeah, no, it takes a few times, and then you kinda get used to it, and for a long time, it was our excitement for the week. "Oh, we got the live coming up." And when we stopped it, doing the lives on a weekly basis, it was kinda like, I kinda miss it,
Oh yeah.
but at the same time, I've gotta get a little bit more done.
Right, yeah, I understand.
Yeah, it's an extra, 3 nights a week that, we're saving to ourselves. We do them once a month now.
Mhm.
It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're up here, it's a lot.
Yeah, no doubt, yeah.
Our
Yeah, it's
lives aren't usually short. Our lives are usually 2, sometimes 3 hours.
right, yeah.
We actually did one, it was, I think, a couple Christmases ago, where it
Mhm.
lasted like 4 and a half, 5 hours.
That was one
But
of
we
the
know
things
what's best for us.
that was one of the things I meant to, mention to you is by flipping through all your live streams, I've been there for some of them, but I noticed that you tend to do them on special occasions. You got like a Christmas Eve one, you've got a Thanksgiving one, this kind of thing. Do you aim for that, or was it something that just came up?
No, it's there's a small group of us up here. Adam and Phyllis from Alaska Cut the Cord, and Mr. Lone from Alone in Remote Alaska. We're
Okay.
pretty good friends, and I think it was 2 years ago. We just said, you know what, let's do something on the holidays, because
Mhm.
not everybody's going to have somebody with them.
Right,
There are
yes.
going to be people home alone that have
Mhm.
nobody to spend their time with. So why don't we all get together, have a live, and give
Mhm.
everybody some place to talk,
Yeah.
whether they want to sit and listen or if they want to interact. And those lives have done rather well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it seemed like everybody was having a good time anyway. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. I mean, the, the lives for a long time, we'd only have 30, 40 people in there.
Hmm.
And then we had, like you were mentioning earlier, we had the live after the big shopping haul video. We
Yeah.
had 600 in there at one time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that day, I was having panic attacks. I just didn't let
Mm.
it show.
No, you didn't. You didn't. You both did very well. Yes. Hmm.
So that it could be a little nerve wracking, especially if you get a lot of people in there. Then we tried for a long time to greet everybody in those lives. You
Yes.
can't always greet everybody. You try to look for the questions, and if you see somebody that you recognize that comes in on a regular basis, we'll make an acknowledgement of it.
Yeah.
But if you focus on that, it's going to get you behind. If you're going to be doing the live and you just want to answer questions, stick to the questions.
Yeah.
You
Oh, that
know,
makes sense. Yeah.
it just that made it a lot easier when we did that. We'd skip over the pleasantries, everybody talking back and forth and greeting one another.
Hmm.
That saved a lot of time, and because there was times where we'd be 2 hours behind on comments
Right.
because of
And
so
we see that that seems to be a growing pain for a lot of live streamers, right? And I even remember in the beginnings of Tuber Chat, it was a lot more calm than the live streams are now. But there comes a day where things get so overwhelming, the stress is in you, and you say, I'm never going to be able to keep this up. And then something happens. Somebody drops a super chat or something, and
Yes.
you're like, oh, now there's nothing I can do now. Or you get a raid. You're like, oh, I had too many people now. And it's funny because it's an interesting problem to have. And
Yes.
what I notice about what you're talking about there, so in the beginning, you might start live streaming, and I promise you, I know what it's like to do a live stream and have nobody show up or one person, and you're talking to one person. And at times, you can almost feel like, I don't want to do this anymore. I got to shut this stream down. I don't even want to be, but you keep it going for the viewers. But there
Yes.
comes a day and you won't be able to pick it out. It just seems like overnight things change. You're doing your live streams and you don't want it to end. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You find yourself I was only going to be here for 3 hours, but now we're going on, you said hour number 4, hour 4.5. We have to cut this off. The sun's coming up, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
And generally, what happens with us is, because we do our lives usually around 4 o'clock Alaska Standard Time in the afternoon.
Hmm.
At the fourth hour, somebody over here on the couch is getting hangry.
No doubt. Yes.
So
Yeah.
it's like, I better cut this short and go make some dinner. And now everybody's like, well, you need to do a live while you're cooking and talk with us.
Right.
So I'm like, okay. So we'll probably want to do one of those soon. Because our cooking style is a little bit different because we have the wood-fired cook stove.
Yes. Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever really seen too many lives where people are actually cooking as they're doing it.
It can be done, but still a great idea either way, especially because you've got something so unique. Somebody like myself, if I was going to cook, we all have the same stove.
Yeah.
Everybody's
Yeah.
going to recognize the microwave and everything else, right? But when you're doing something different, I think people can understand. As an example, I have not yet tried to ever barbecue with charcoal. I just use a
Really?
gas, or propane, and just, I slap things on. I can cook to save my life, but nothing spectacular. But, my imagination tells me you must be able to do a lot of different things, especially with the restrictions up there, right?
Yes. And, it's funny you say you've never cooked with charcoal. I actually just got a 15-gallon steel drum in with a
Oh,
removable top so I can make my own charcoal.
oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. Wow.
It's not cheap up here. I mean, you
No,
go
I
to
not.
Costco's, a big 50-pound bag is like stupid money. Where
Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
just go out to the woods here and cut down a couple pieces of trees and throw them
Yeah.
in the can, put it in the fire, and it's done.
Right. Yeah. That's resourceful also. Yeah. It's great when you can do that. Because when we talk about homesteading, I mean, somebody like myself, I learn a lot, but I've got a lot still to learn, obviously, from yourself and a lot of our friends who have homesteading channels or engage in
Yep.
homesteading type activities. And a big thing is trying to save money and be resourceful. You know what I mean? You can
Yes.
overpay for things very easily, but when you know that if something's not available, you can provide it for yourself, it's wonderful then.
Yes. See, one of the big things I had to get Sarah used to up here is
Mhm.
you don't buy second best.
Okay, yeah.
You buy what is going to work the best. It
Hmm.
might cost you a little bit of more money, or it might cost
Right.
you a lot more money. Our biggest issue we had when we first got here is our batteries in the cabin died when we first got here,
Oh,
or,
goodness.
and as well as the inverter. Well,
Hmm.
I couldn't get what I wanted, so I had to settle,
Okay.
and it cost me twice
Hmm.
the price of what I wanted, and that's
Yeah.
because I couldn't get it here. I could get it here, but it would take me a month. I can't
Oh,
go without power for a month.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
So buying spares, having spares of everything is an important thing up here. We
Yeah.
have about 5 or 6 generators. You never know
Right.
when one's down. I do all my maintenance myself. I take care of it all myself. But if that generator dies, I got to have a backup.
Yeah, it makes sense what
Water
you said.
pump. Everything is water pumps here. They're, the style that you would find in an RV,
Okay.
whether it be 12 volt, 24 volt, or 120, but it's that same style. We have multiples on hand, and we actually had another YouTuber up here this winter,
Hmm.
and the one in this house failed.
Oh, goodness.
And he's like, "Can I film this?" I'm like, "Of course you can." He actually videoed me running around like a chicken with my head cut off trying to find another water pump, and I did
Yeah.
find it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I can relate that hopefully to our YouTube friends, because the idea of having backups, we might discard things like old phones or old tablets and just kind of write them off as, oh, this is too old and I'm just not going to use it. But almost all of us probably have an old phone or an old tablet or even old computers and things like that. And they can be a lifesaver when it comes to
Yes.
the idea of I forgot this or forgot that or something crashes or the other things that can happen. I forget my stuff as much as anybody does, and I'm panicking, but luckily through different experiences you collect different things and then say, okay, well, now I've got a battery and I've got a backup. I got a phone and I've got a backup, and I've got usually two of everything, just for that reason. So it can relate to what we're talking about with our YouTube channels as well. But it's great to be so prepared. I've spent a lot of time talking about what's happened on your channel at the time that one of your videos really exploded. I mean, everything you're doing now is doing fantastic. The numbers are, continuing to just be amazing, literally, with everything that you're putting out. But if you can remember what it was like chasing that first 1,000 subscribers, was there any discouragement at all?
Oh yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
Within the first 8 or 9 months when we weren't really getting subs, we only had 100, 200 subs,
Hmm.
and that went on for probably about 7, 8 months. At first, when we first did the channel, it was mostly for friends and family,
Okay. Yep.
for them to see what we're doing. And then, once we started seeing people pop on that weren't part of the friends and family list,
Hmm.
we're like, okay. And then, say, okay, we'll just continue. We'll just, make it like we're doing regular YouTube like everybody else instead of just for friends and family.
Right.
We'd jump and then stall, jump
Okay.
and then stall. And it's just like, why am I wasting my time here?
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
wants to see this. Is 50,000 other channels doing the same thing. Because in our
Right.
stretch of Alaska, we have a huge amount of YouTubers.
Okay. Yeah.
There are literally between Anchorage and Fairbanks, there's probably about 200 to 300 YouTubers.
Oh, goodness. More than I would have thought. Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot.
Hmm.
So it was like, am I wasting my time here? I look at Sarah and said, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. It's just,
Hmm.
I could be doing other stuff.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I could just, not have to worry about move my camera here, move my camera there, put lights there. I was editing. People don't realize how long it takes to edit videos,
Oh, yes.
and it's just like, do I really want to continue this? And then we have a spike,
Right.
whether it's 10 or 20.
Hmm.
When you go for weeks without no new subs, and then you get, ooh, there's 50.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
they, they can start really quick. It's like, yes, maybe it is worth it.
Right.
And then when we started getting closer to that 1,000, it's just like, I was in town around my birthday
Okay.
of last year, and the day I was coming home, we hit 400 subs.
Right.
So literally just a little over a year ago,
Yeah.
and then it started creeping up really quickly. And at that point, I started getting excited about it.
Oh,
And
that's
that
good. Yeah.
part where I was always, maybe not, maybe I don't want to do this,
Hmm.
vanished. It
Right.
just vanished.
Oh, that's
And then,
good.
by early January, we had our 1,000 subs. So we gained
Yeah.
600 subs in 2 months.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
That
was
must
like,
have been exciting.
wow. And I was coming into a tuber chat on a regular basis,
Hmm.
and as well as, pushing us on, like Facebook. I don't do a whole
Hmm.
lot with Twitter or Instagram, um,
Okay.
because I don't want to be tied to the computer.
Yeah, I
You know,
understand. Yeah.
I go on Facebook anyways to talk to friends and family. It's like, well, I could just cross post it over to my Facebook page for it.
Hmm.
And that's really all we did. And then,
Right.
hit that 1,000 and it was like, woohoo, we got that mile marker, and after my birthday, I made it a challenge. I want to be monetized by the spring.
Okay. Yeah.
Didn't realize it was only gonna be 2 months later,
Yeah.
and Tuber Chat had a huge play in that,
Right. Well, I appreciate you
with
saying that.
this,
Yeah.
it was amazing.
Right. Yeah, you've been in there a lot. I mean, we've talked today. You've mentioned lots of other channels that have had the impact that we see regularly. Of course, we couldn't mention everyone, but for
Yeah.
somebody starting out that's going through that, what you were feeling in that first 300, first 400, what kind of encouragement can you give to somebody to say, like, hey, the next time you're thinking of stopping, here's a reason why not to?
Think of it as like a job. If you have a
Okay.
bad day, you're going to walk out on your job.
Sometimes we wish, but we don't.
No, this is correct. I mean, but there's if you quit a job, now you've got to go look for another one.
Yeah.
So if you're getting down on your YouTube, you think about what can happen, the positive side of it, not the negative side.
Hmm.
Think of all the positive possibilities that could become if you stick to it. If you stick to
Right.
your guns and force yourself to sit behind that computer desk and edit, to sit there. I mean, well, I know a lot of people don't even edit. They just
Yeah. Yeah.
they're gifted with the ability to go through the whole spiel and not
There you
have to
go.
do it
Yeah.
in one take.
Yeah.
I wish I had that, but
I'm sure we all wish at times. Yeah.
right, keeping a positive outlook on it is the best thing because if you keep that positive outlook, it's going to keep going. You're going to
Hmm.
have that drive to do it. You're going to want to get up and do it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate you saying it because, we say a lot of the same things a lot of the time. People have to listen to me say the same things over and over again, but you never know who's going to strike the right chord. You never know who's going to say something the right way that's going to connect with you. You're going to say, yes, I've heard 100 people tell me this before, but, maybe for today, somebody, connects with, I heard Rob and it's a voice in the back of my mind while I'm filming, when I don't want to edit anymore, when I don't want to do something anymore. Because we all have those days. It doesn't have to be that bad. But,
No,
maybe that will be the encouragement that somebody needs to make one more video. Or like,
yeah,
yes, put your video out this week, not next week, kind of thing.
yeah. If you get discouraged, take 10 minutes, go outside, get a breath of fresh air, come back in, sit down, and go back at it.
Yeah.
Most of the time, I think where people are going to get discouraged is sitting in front of the computer doing the editing aspect of it.
It can be, yes, it can be daunting.
Yeah, I mean, because the content can come natural,
Hmm.
and it can be at times you can kind of force the content, which I don't like.
Right. Yeah.
But if you do it naturally and you know what you're wanting to get, it'll come natural.
Hmm.
It's just sitting behind a computer and tap, 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 moving the mouse all day long. That's where it becomes daunting. And I think
Right.
that's when most people have their issues. But just
Right.
get outside, take a walk, go for a drive,
Yeah.
come back in and go back at it.
A little bit of a break and a fresh set of eyes and ears on the content might be all that somebody needs. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. What you guys don't know is Kevin and I have taken about 5 breaks here. No, I'm kidding.
That's true. It's true. Yes, we stop to take a drink, we stop to catch our breath and everything else. Yeah, cough a little, sneeze a little, and everything else. Yeah. Okay, Rob, thank you so much for visiting and having a talk with me and our friends here on Tuber Chat about how we can get 10,000 subscribers, or in your case, almost 50,000 on our YouTube channels. I really do appreciate the encouragement, and I hope everybody will connect with Curmudge Inn Alaska. I'll link it, of course, in the description of this video so everybody can catch you easily. And I'll be looking forward to more of what you're doing. And for everybody watching, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, I hope you'll share it with somebody who you think needs to see it. And like always, I hope everybody will give us that thumbs up. Leave us a comment. Let us know if there's anything that we forgot to ask. And I'll invite you again to head over to Curmudge Inn Alaska, talk to Rob, Sarah, as well as Zeus and Mishka, so that you can ask them anything you need to know about what they're doing on their channel. And we'll see everybody again soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye bye.